to work.
Okay. So Lillian Treasure was an American. Yeah, an American. She wasn't a missionary. She was just an American artist. She wasn't famous. She graduated, I think, and then she was looking for a job to work in something to do with art. But at the time, like, I don't think she used to go to church as regularly. Like, her parents were Christian, but she wasn't really, like, she used to go to church every now and then. But then she was on the train going for an interview in one of the states in America, and then she met this lady that had an orphanage in one of the states, and she told her, like, I need some help. It was really random, and she just told her, I need some help in the orphanage, and I would love for you to come and help me. And she was like, no, like, I'm going for a job interview for this, like, really, like, good, in this really good company. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, she went for her interview, but she gave her her address, the orphanage address, and she kept it with her. But she went for the job interview anyway, and the guy looked at her work, and he was like, "Yeah, I think like you're the good, like, you're the best for the job." So but he told her, like, come back tomorrow morning, and I'll tell you, like, if you definitely got the job or not. But she had good feelings about it because he already told her, like, she would get it. But she came back the second day. He told her come back at 10 o'clock. She came and she found someone else. And then she was like, I'm here, like, I had an interview yesterday, and I can't remember his name. He told her to come at 10 o'clock, and he was to see if I got the job or not. And the guy that was sitting there was like, oh, you're like the fifth one that comes here today. I'm sorry, you already said that he found the perfect girl for the job. I'm sorry, like, it's not you. And then she was shocked because he clearly told her she's the one for it. But she told him, okay, can I have my work back, because he took it to look at it, and he was like, I don't know where your work is, the office was upside down. So he was like, she'll come back in a couple of days. He would have been, like, the guy was ill, he will come back in like a couple of days, so he probably knows where your work is and he'll give it to you. So anyway, she left and she didn't know what to do. She came, like, she was just shocked because she thought the day before that she got the job, but then she kept praying. Oh, I don't remember that bit. I don't know, I can't remember what happened, but then she found that dress in her pocket, and she thought maybe, like, she should go to this orphanage and just give it a try. But then she waited for a couple of days to get her work back, and when she went back, the guy was there. He was like, what happened to you? And she's like, I came, like, he told me the second day, but the guy told me, like, you know, you found someone else. And he was like, no, you were the girl that I told him you're the one for the job, and how can he mistake you for someone else or whatever? He was like, you didn't come back, so I had to hire someone else. But he was like, you were the perfect, and he was upset himself that she, like, you know, she wasn't the one working for him. She was just like, she wasn't upset. She felt like God was still in her, like, she's supposed to go to that orphanage and work there. But she was like, yeah, it's meant to be. Like, I don't think this job was meant for me. Even though she was, like, 2 days before, she was so into that job and she was waiting to start working. But yeah, she left. She wasn't upset. She took her work and she just left. She went for the orphanage. She worked there, and I don't know what happened after. But she started going to church regularly, and she met this other guy that's serving as well in the church. He really liked her, and he proposed to her, and they were gonna get married. And everything was ready. She made her own wedding dress herself, and I think they had like a week and a half left to their wedding. And then there was this missionary giving a talk in one of the churches, and she went to that talk. I think he was talking about missionary in Africa or something like that. I'm not sure. But when she went, and she went she stayed through the talk, and then she started crying, but she doesn't know why. And then she went back to the orphanage, and she's like, I think I know, like, why, what, like, the lady in the orphanage was like, why are you crying? She was like, I think God wants me to serve in Africa, like, be a missionary in Africa. And the lady was like, are you sure? Like, how? She's like, yes, I'm sure. But I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, she was supposed to be getting married in like a week and a half. And then she's like, I don't know how to tell like her fiance. She didn't know how to tell her fiance. So the lady told her like, I'm sure he will understand. He will come with you, or you can come back. And she's like, no, but I'm not supposed to come back. I'm supposed to serve in Africa for the rest of my life. But she's like, okay, where in Africa? She's like, I don't know. I just know it's in Africa, but I don't know where. So she went and she's like, okay, she has to talk to her fiance. Their wedding is like in a week and a half. She went and talked to him, but he loved her so much. So he's like, oh, the lady told her like maybe he can come and serve with you in Africa, but she was like, no, his calling is to serve here, not in Africa. So when she went to talk to him, he was like, okay, go for like 2-3 years and I'll wait for you. And she's like, no, you don't understand. I'm not coming back. I'm not supposed to be serving. I'm called to serve in Africa. And he kept asking her, like, where in Africa? She's like, she doesn't know anything. She just knows that she's supposed to serve in Africa. She's like, okay. And then after, like, they left each other. He was really upset, of course. But then she didn't know what to do next because she doesn't know anything about missionary. But then she heard of this conference in another state, which is a bit far from where she was. And she didn't even have enough money for the journey from where she was to the other state that had the conference for the missionary. But somehow I think the church raised the money for her. And then after they raised it for her, she went to the orphanage. Like, I think she raised most of it. And then she put it on the desk of this lady, the one that's in charge of the orphanage, thinking she's going to look after it for her till she raised the rest of it. But then one of the other servants there thought it was money for the orphanage, so they took it and spent it on the orphanage, and then she had to like wait and save all of it again. But then she managed to save like half of it, and then she thought she would go to a state closer to where the missionary is till she saves the rest of the money and goes to the other state for the conference. But when she arrived at the state, the woman in charge of the orphanage gave her this address for this family that helps serve other people and help them have somewhere to stay. So when she went, at the time, like the day that she went, there was a guy there and his wife, and they were missionaries in Egypt. But the lady was like, I don't think I have space for you because like I have other people staying and stuff. But one of the girls were like, no, I will give you my room. I can sleep. Like I can go somewhere else. I know other people in the area, and you should take my space. But then they started asking her, so what are you doing here? What's like, why are you going to that conference and stuff? And she told them like how like she feels God is calling her to serve in Africa. And they were like, oh, so like, where in Africa? That she was like, I don't know. And then they were like, okay, do you have money to travel to Africa? She was like, no. And they were like, are your parents like gonna like help you with the finance? And I know they don't want me to go. They want me to stay. They would do anything for me to stay. And the guy that was serving in Egypt was listening to her. He just started having a go at her. He was like, so you don't know where you're serving, you don't have money, you just think God is calling. God doesn't just call people like that, it's not out of nowhere. You need to at least know where you're going. You need to have money. You know how much the tickets are to Africa. And just had a go at her in her mind. She's like, oh, he's right. Like it sounds crazy in my mind. Like how can I don't even know where I'm going. But then she's like, no, but I know, I'm positive God wants me to serve in Africa. And then the guy was like, no, you're crazy, just go and, go back to your parents and say you're sorry, and don't leave them and just stay there, or something like that. And then she was really upset, of course. She didn't know what to do. She was supposed to be saving money to go to this conference. And she's like, no, but she was positive she has to serve in Africa. God is calling her to serve in Africa. And that's it. So I think that night she slept, and then the next morning the guy came to her and was like, I'm sorry about last night, I was talking to my wife, and she was telling me you have such great faith, and I'm sure God is not gonna leave you on your own. So he was like, and if you ever I have not an orphanage, but he's got a missionary house in Egypt, in Asyut. And he's like, if you ever have the money to buy a ticket to Egypt, I can give you the address for where I am, and you can come and serve with us. And she's like, then she felt like God is telling her, you're gonna serve in Egypt. She's like, that's it. Her mission now is to serve in Egypt. And I was just thinking like that was enough to like convince her. The guy was having a go at her like the night before. But yeah, he just gave her the address and everything, and he was like, I can't pay for your ticket, but I can provide like accommodation and food there when you get there. So she was like, it's fine. And then she had, so, like the orphanage lady sent her, they raised enough money for her ticket, so she ended up going to that missionary place and to that missionary conference, and then she learned a lot throughout it. And then I think she went back to the orphanage and she tried to raise the money for the ticket for Egypt, and the church raised some money for her as well. And at the end, she ended up getting a ticket to Egypt. But her sister went with her to make sure like she settles in and stuff. What happened after? I think loads of things happened on the way, but the story is better after she gets to Egypt. So she went to Egypt, and then she met the guy there and his wife, and she started working with them. She had no Arabic, she didn't know any Arabic, she didn't know anything. But her and her sister started like serving with them there. And then one night, I think one of the servants was teaching her Arabic and stuff, but one night some guy came crying and looking at the place where they are, and they were like he wants someone to go with him, but they didn't know where. It was like in the middle of the night. So Lillian first volunteered to go, and one of the other servants went with her and her sister and one of the guys to translate, like she doesn't know any Arabic. So they went. They keep running after the guy to catch up with him, and after he took them to this like little like house or like room, and then she found like a girl like was like 14 or something like that was just crying out like just take her in Arabic, but she like please take her. Lillian only understood the please. She didn't understand the rest. She was asking what does she want us to take, like. The guy was telling her like she's saying take her, and then she found the girl's mom was sitting there and she had a baby in her lap, and then at that point like the 15-year-old or 14-year-old girl died, and then the grandmother was just looking at the baby, and the grandmother would tell the mother or the grandmother was telling her to take the baby as well, but the guy that was translating was like, no, there is no place for the baby where we serve. Like, just give her to the mom, she would know what to do with it. And then the mom was like, she looked at the girl, she was like, what good is she? She's a girl anyway. It's like, but I think back in the day they only used to appreciate boys. But, and then she was like, he was like, no, just leave her, she would know what to do with it. But Lillian looked at the lady, and the lady was like, the lady looked at the baby, and then there was like the river outside, and she looked at the river. And then after she's like, she's no good. And then Lillian was like, what does she mean? Like, why is she looking at the river? She was like, she's gonna drown the baby basically if they leave her with her. And the guy was like, no, like the guy didn't want her to bring the baby back to the place, but she was like, no, I can't leave her. She clearly would kill her, like drown her in the river. But then she took the baby. And the guy that went to get them just ran away after the girl died. He ran away. I think he was the dad. But she went back to the place, and the guy in charge of the place and his wife were like, what? There's no place for the baby here. But she's like, I will look after it. I won't ask you if anything. And Lillian was like, I'll never ask anything of you. But then the baby started crying, and for like 2 weeks, none of the missionaries were able to like sleep. And then he told her like, the baby has to go. You have to take him back to his whoever is left of his family. She's like, no, but the lady is clearly gonna kill her, like, but he was like, he wouldn't take for an answer. He was like, it's either you give him back or you leave as well. And she was like, okay, and she left. Her and her sister left, and they're like, at the time there was no orphanage in Egypt, like in Masjid. I don't think they were allowed to have orphanage anyway. But then she thought about it. She thought this is her calling to have open an orphanage in Egypt. She had no money at the time except like I think £2 or something like that. And there was like this house that was going for like it was being rented, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna open that house. And she started by like just this baby. Her sister came with her, but she was like, you did the right thing. The baby was gonna die and whatever. And then hi. Yeah, and then and the guy keeps like the guy that was working missionary. He keeps us like telling her like, just come back. Like you're better off here. Like you have accommodation, you have money. You have like you won't be able to open an orphanage on your own kind of thing. But she was just like she was persistent that she's gonna carry on with this orphanage, and whoever wants like. If there's any kids that don't have like parents or are abandoned on the street, she will take them in. At the beginning, like she was persecuted by everyone around the area. They were like this foreign lady that hardly knows any Arabic, is trying to like she's trying to raise the kids and to like sell them, and they just made so many rumors about her like using the kids and stuff. But she just keep going, and she used. Like because she had no money, she had to like, and she wanted to buy milk for the babies, and she struggled a lot at the beginning. But then she used to go around, and people started like her. They see how she served, and then they started bringing like stuff for her, and like raise money for her. And then people ended up like telling her if there's any kids that were like. One of the kids, their parents died. The other kids was like lived on the street. So she kept bringing in kids like all the time, and then I think at one point, and the war started at that time, and then loads of like people died. So there was loads more kids that were left stranded like on the streets. So she had to get a bigger place, and then she started like it was all by faith. Like she just used to pray to God, and then somehow she'd get whatever she asked for or whatever they like missing. It would come straight away. It would knock like someone would knock at the door and have whatever they were missing. Like there was this land that she wanted to buy so she can build like her own orphanage, like a big place where because she at that point she had loads of kids. Like someone came and knocked at her door and gave her like a check for the exact amount of that land. She started building the land. The kids started helping with building the actual thing with the other workers, and then it just started like more people came to serve with her, and she just struggled a lot along the way. Like the actual book is really good, but it's just and she struggled with people around her. She struggled with loads of things, but everything she did was done by faith. Like she at one point she used to be like, you're not gonna make. She used to beg for food, but then she's like, I'm not gonna do that again, because at one point she went to this man, and he used to make excuses to come and see her, like, I'm working, I'm gonna see you in a bit. He made her wait throughout the whole day, but then she told God, like, I'm not gonna beg for money, like, you feed these kids because they're your kids, not mine. So you feed them, I'm not gonna pay. And she went home, and they had no money like at home or food or anything. But at that point, she went back home, and she found like a letter. They told her that you got a letter from like someone, and she found like loads of money in it for like they told her this money is for like to feed the kids and stuff. And another thing, there was another thing that happened. Yeah, one of the men that came, she made like these like invitations for people that were tourists that were coming to see the city to come and look at her orphanage and see like the work and stuff and maybe help out. But one of the guys that came to visit, he was like, so do you always have enough food for for the kids? She's like, no, but God provides. And he was like, so do you have enough food for tomorrow? She's like, no. He was like, how are you gonna sleep? Like, how are you gonna be able to sleep if you don't have food for all these kids? At that point she had like 400 kids, And she was like, and then one of the girls that was serving with her, she was like, she laughed. She was like, Mama Lillian never like lost sleep over like not having enough food or not having enough money to buy food. And he was just like, he looked at her like she's some crazy woman. Like, how can you have these amount of kids and not have enough money to feed them? But like, I think at the same time when she was talking that, someone came with like a big van that had loads of food or something, and he just looked at, and he ended up like, I think, giving them money as well. But yeah, it's just like throughout the whole book, it just showed like she went through a lot as well. I think during war they told her any foreigner in Egypt has to go back to their country. And she was like, all the kids were crying. She was crying. She didn't want to leave, but she felt like something in her heart is telling her like, maybe you can go and talk about this in America, and you can get like help from there as well. She said, yeah, that's right. And then she left the kids, and she went back. She gave conference and stuff, and they ended up sending like loads of money, and they sending loads of things, and made them clothes for the kids, because they had no, like, they used to. And I hardly had anything, but everything was sent to them at the right time, whenever they needed. And then she ended up going back. After all this like settled, she went back, and yeah, it was just, everything was done by faith. And yeah, I liked her because she was really famous in Egypt. Apparently, like, our moms should know her. And then she opened the first orphanage. Oh, and at one point, because she was teaching them about the Bible and stuff, people didn't like the Muslim families didn't like the fact that, you know, this lady's taking our kids, like we should open like a place for them to learn. And they took all the Muslim kids and opened another place. But then she got upset at the beginning, but God was sending more kids, and her own kids that she was teaching, and each one went back to their own like city and opened their own like opened churches and opened missionary houses and started preaching, like the kids that she raised up. So yeah, that's it. You have to read it. It's so much better than what I'm saying, but I tried to remember as much as I could.
Thank you.